Welcome back to Four-Way Stop. I'm Jesus Velasquez, and I'm here with Jordan Zacharias, and welcome to the 80s horror.
Ow!
So, in this episode, we're going to cover a ton of movies, and I just want to clarify that there's a lot of movies in the 80s. The 80s is actually probably like the golden era. Well, for us, it's like the golden era of horror movies. So, we have a lot of movies on this list, so we're going to actually have a subcategory that's going to be honorable mentions that we're just going to mention for a few minutes or a few seconds on that movie. Because there's so many great movies in the 80s that you need to check out for Halloween, but we just don't have enough time to get all of them.
Yeah, there's so many golden ones, dude. And like Jesus, you said, this is the golden age for us because we grew up in the 80s, we're children in the 80s, so obviously a lot of these movies hold special places in our hearts. Of course, everyone would say the golden age of horror would be all the way back to the Universal monsters of the 30s and stuff like that. But yeah, for us, the 80s, you just have the camp factor, you have the fun movies, there's such a wide array of serious to really campy, over the top.
There's so many serial killers, so many supernatural, like campiness. It's just like the 80s brought out all the fun nostalgia of horror movies, and it just kind of like, if there was a time capsule, you could put horror movies from the 80s, and it would perfectly explain what the 80s were.
Yeah.
I know I was born in 81, Jordan was born in 82.
Yep.
So the 80s is where we kind of like, it's funny like saying as kids, that's where we got into scary movies, and I have a son and I'm like, oh no, how he should be before I show him scary movies.
Exactly.
But it was a different time for us. But anyways, so we're going to focus on the 80s, and so anyways, let's get to it. Our first movie of today is Chopping Mall. It was directed by Jim Wynorski and Julie Corman. It was produced by her. It came out in 1986. And just to clarify once again, we're not going to go in any particular order. It's going to be all over the place. So this one came out in 1986. And so Chopping Mall is a movie about, it's really super campy. It's hilarious.
This is a personal favorite of mine.
It's a personal favorite. Honestly, I have to say that Chopping Mall, for me, there used to be, when I was a kid, there was a show called Friday Night Fright Night, and it was on KTTY.
Was that with Joe Bob? Whatever?
No, that was a different thing.
One?
Yeah,
okay.
So it was Friday Night Fright Night, and it was on KTTY. It was channel 69 on just like regular access TV. And it was every Friday night there was a double feature for horror movies.
Okay.
And so my mom worked the night shift as a nurse, and so my dad, being the dad, just went to bed whenever he went to bed, and I'd watch a double feature of scary movies. And Chopping Mall was like one of the first scary movies I'd ever seen.
So wait, how old were you when you first saw it?
Let's see. I had to be approximately anywhere between 8,
2 and 3.
Yeah, 2 and 3. I had to be anywhere between like 8 and 11. So yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, so it was like 8 and 11, and I remember watching it and thinking like, wow, this movie's amazing. So anyways, the point of Chopping Mall is simplicity. It's security robots.
They look just like Johnny Five from Short Circuit.
Yeah, they look like the knockoff version. The Walmart
version.
Yeah,
the really bad version.
And so it's like this new innovative to protect the mall. There's the security.
They're the new mall security robots, yeah.
And so the whole thing is like they're there. It's all like new and innovative. It's updated technology. And then obviously what can stop any updated technology? Lightning. And so
it short circuits the main control unit or whatever.
It short circuits it, and then there's like
short circuit.
Oh, there you go. Oh man.
And there's a bunch of kids that work in the mall.
Yeah,
and they stay until after the mall closes to stay in the mattress store.
Yeah,
and upset with that.
Well, let's make sure that we don't mean actual kids, like teenagers. I guess
no.
We're getting older. We're like, oh yeah, kids.
They're all like late high school, early college.
Yeah, and so they're like they go into.
Even though all the actors look about 30.
Yeah, and so they get into this mattress store and they're kind of just doing their thing. It's kind of funny, like. They're all in different departments, kind of, having sex, doing drugs, and then there's the nerd couple that's just watching TV. So anyways, they're stuck in the mall. All the doors are closed, and the security thing's alerted, and the robots are out, and they've malfunctioned. And so the whole point of the movie is that the robots are going out, and they're kind of just killing the teenagers, the high schoolers, whatever, because they're set to kill, and they don't know any better to... they just think they're intruders, which is kind of funny because if you think it's like, is like their default setting to kill, like not kill or kill? Like, is that their only setting that they have?
The most ruthless security system ever. Instead of like arresting people with handcuffs, these guys just like slit people's throats and explode their heads with lasers and brain splatter everywhere.
I mean, that's what we got to at the mall. It's like, oh, we got an intruder, blow their head off.
This mall must have had some serious problems to need this kind of security. This escalated quickly.
I wish, and maybe we could still pen this movie. I always wanted to do like Chopping Mall 2 Black Friday. Could you imagine that?
Oh my gosh,
that would
be amazing. That'd be amazing.
So anyways, that's pretty much Chopping Mall. Chopping Mall just follows, a group of high schoolers that are stuck in the mall. They're trying to escape, and there's, I think there's 3 or 4 robots. I can't remember. I think it's 3.
Yeah. So they're slowly trying to fight the robots, take them out, trying to outsmart the robots. Of course, a bunch of the teenagers get picked off one by one.
Yeah.
Because they're stupid and start screaming and running for their lives, and of course they get shot or whatever with the lasers. But yeah, just think cheese this whole movie. It's super campy. It's not taking itself seriously. It's just really funny and fun to watch with a group of people.
Yeah, and it's like Jordan said, it's really fun. It's campy, fun to watch. It's don't even take it seriously. I don't think it was supposed to be taken seriously. Maybe it was, but in the 80s, you never even know what.
Definitely not with that soundtrack.
Yeah, that was the soundtrack. But anyway, so Chopping Mall definitely one to check out for Halloween. Warning: there is some nudity in the movie. I don't know about the language, but
there's violence and gore. There's
violence
a little bit
and gore.
of nudity in the beginning, but then it's just pure fun.
The gore is very like over the top, so it's not like kind of disturbing. It's just
think Evil Dead kind of. Yeah.
So anyway, so Chopping Mall, check it out this Halloween. The next movie on our list is Halloween 3: The Season of the Witch. It is directed by Tommy Lee Wallace. It had a budget of $2.5 million, and it came out in 1982. It was produced by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter as well. This movie, yes, has one of our favorite theme songs. Well, anyways. But this movie is actually really weird because it's one of those movies that it's in the Halloween universe, but it's not Halloween. It's not Michael Myers isn't in the movie, which threw a lot of people off because the first 2 Halloweens had Michael Myers in it and Donald Pleasance and Jamie Lee Curtis. And so when you hear Halloween 3, you're thinking, oh, okay, here's another Halloween with Michael Myers and all the returning cast. But that wasn't it. It's a completely different movie altogether.
And do you know why they did that?
Actually, I might, but refresh my memory. I don't know.
Okay, so I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly. So yeah, the first 2 established one of what's now the most iconic movie, like serial killer, like movie slasher killer of all time, Michael Myers. But back then, they knew they had a hit on their hands. But with the first 2, I think what they wanted to do, from what I've read, is they thought, okay, well, the Halloween movies could be almost like an not an anthology, but kind of a thing that, well, we could have something happening different stories because it takes place just every Halloween. So they wanted to not center it around Michael Myers each time. Their idea for this one is, hey, let's just do it, not a spin-off or anything like that, but let's just try something where it's just a story set during Halloween, and it could be about anything. And they thought that's what all the Halloween 4, Halloween 5, all those would be about. After this one, they went right back to Michael Myers because so people got so mad that he wasn't in it.
You're right. I do remember that. So it's like the fact that the idea is actually really cool because the title of the movies are called Halloween. So Halloween 1, 2, 3. And the 3 even had the subtitle, which was Season of the Witch. And so, which kind of made it like it's different. It's not, And so this one did have that idea that, hey, we're going to go in a different direction. And I remember when I first saw this movie, we love the Halloween movies. I hated this movie. I hated it. Because I'm like, I was just so stubborn. I'm like, this isn't Michael Myers.
The first time I saw it, I didn't get it.
Yeah. And
I was like, where's Michael?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Even after a while, I still didn't like it. It wasn't until maybe later on when I gave it a chance. Like,
you and I watched it a couple times
together. We watched it a few times, and I was like, okay, it's a different movie. It's a standalone. It's not a Halloween Michael Myers movie. Let's just watch it that way.
Right.
And I kind of ended up liking it because the concept is really cool. It's a little out there in a sense, but it's really cool. So the idea of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is that there's this... Well, I'm not 100% sure if they're like aliens or robots or what they are.
Yeah.
But there's this kind of like company that's giving away Halloween masks to kids. And they're giving these kind of like, it's like the Shamrock, a pumpkin.
Yeah, Shamrock
and like, I think it's a company. Witch or something. And so, yes, the Shamrock company, but they're giving all these different costumes that kids are wearing for Halloween, and they're going to have this big giveaway on Halloween night, but they have to be wearing their masks. And so anyways, the main protagonist, Tom Atkins.
Famous from The Fog, Night of the Creeps.
Yeah. So he's the main protagonist, and so he kind of like starts investigating it. I don't know if he's a detective or
he's a drunk. He's like
he's definitely a drunk.
I think he's a PI. I think that's what he is.
And so he starts investigating.
Again, it's been a while since I've seen it, so I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah. And so he investigates it. He kind of starts following the the little trail of clues, and so he ends up in this.
He goes to the town where the company Shamrock is located that makes these masks, and something nefarious is happening to where he thinks that I forgot what he actually thinks is going on, but what ends up going on is that they're going to use these masks that all the kids are going to wear across the country on Halloween nights, where when they watch the TV and they send out a mind-controlling message, basically. Isn't that what it is?
So here's a little spoiler. Well, it's not really a spoiler, but sure.
Spoiler, yeah.
He goes to the Shamrock warehouse or whatever, and he sees through a double
he sneaks in.
He sneaks in and he sees through a glass window or a mirror or whatever, a double mirror, and he sees this family in there. And then one of the kids has the mask on and they're playing the thing, and the family's oblivious to what's going on, but the kid's watching the TV, the song's going on, the Happy Happy Halloween, that song. And so then the kid's just kind of going, he's having convulsions and everything. And then he just falls on the ground, and I can't remember if his head just melts off, or I don't know.
It caves in.
It caves in, and then a bunch of snakes and spiders and bugs come out of his mask, and it's just it's creepy.
So I guess it's not mind control.
No, I don't know if
it's more like head melting.
Yeah, I don't think it's mind control. It's more head melting and wiping out kids apparently. So
these aliens hate children.
Yeah, so these aliens hate children. So. Or robots. I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, you said robots. Fun fact: the bad guy in this movie is the head of what's the company called in RoboCop?
Skynet? No. That's
Skynet. I was gonna say Cyberdyne. That's still that's Terminator. Anyway, so the head of the company in RoboCop, that's the guy who's the bad guy in Halloween 3: Season of the Witch.
Is he the one that's? Oh no, he's not the one that's
No, he's the one that the bad guy Dick has with the head at the end. He goes, "Dick, you're fired."
Oh, that one, not the one. Not the one about too bad about so. Yeah, that's life in the big city.
That's another movie for another time.
Oh yeah. Anyways, we'll get back to RoboCop later. Anyways, so he sees this going on, so he's kind of finally convinced that the Shamrock company is out there to destroy all the kids on Halloween night, and that's why they're giving this giveaway with the mask. He has this companion with him, which is a lady throughout the movie, and she's with him.
Who seems like she has the same concerns he does about the company.
So anyways, at the very end of the movie, let's just say, I don't want to give any spoilers away, but he's on the phone and he's trying to get the TV companies to turn it off.
Because it's Halloween night at midnight then, and that's when all the kids around the country are going to be watching.
Yeah, and TV. So I like this movie. What I really like about this movie is it's really set up really cool. After I kind of got over the whole Michael Myers thing, I really kind of like the eeriness and just the different vibe it got. And looking at it now, I mean, I do love Michael Myers and all the other movies, the 4 or 5. I know other people don't, but I do. But it would have been cool if there was an anthology thing, if there was a Halloween 4 with a different story.
Well, that's what the movie that came out recently, Trick or Treat. That's kind of what that one did. Or it's an anthology kind of story. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but that one's an anthology within the movie. Right. Yeah, it would be actually cool to see a movie because it's called Halloween.
Right.
It would have been really cool to actually see Halloween 4. What's their story this year? Or Halloween 5. What's their story? And they could even integrate it the same universe. Michael Myers could even have a cameo or something.
Right.
But what happened was everyone hated Halloween 3. I don't know if I know why. People wanted Michael Myers. They loved the Michael Myers stories. They did excellent with 1 and 2. So I mean, it was only natural that people wanted Michael Myers in the movie. And so they, threw in the towel, shut it down, and said, okay, let's bring back Michael Myers for Halloween 4.
Right.
But watch Halloween 3 as a standalone. That's why we're kind of giving this episode to Halloween 3 right now, because it's a standalone. I'm not, when we talk about Halloween 2, which we are later, it's kind of with Halloween 1. This one's its own movie, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's definitely worth checking out. Don't go in it thinking that you're going to see Michael Myers or Donald Pleasance. It's its own movie, and I think it's definitely one you'll like to check out for Halloween. I don't think there's any nudity or a lot of language in it, so it's pretty safe. So, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, check it out this Halloween. The next movie on our list is John Carpenter's The Thing. It came out in 1982, and it had a budget of $15 million.
Oh, man, dude. This is one of my all-time favorites. This is actually one of the movies that got me into horror movies, for sure. I remember, I think I snuck out when my parents put me to bed one time, and they were watching this because they love, sci-fi horror stuff, and they were watching this, and, dude, it creeped me the heck out so bad, because the special effects are so good. Rob Bottin, one of the masters with the practical effects in this movie. John Carpenter, one of my favorite directors. There is not a better possible cast, I don't think, as well as the setting. You talk about the ultimate isolation where it takes place in the Antarctic, where these guys are, scientists up there doing some sort of exploration or, geology or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they have something happen that's these Swedes come into their camp in a helicopter chasing this dog, taking shots at it from the helicopter.
Grenades.
They throw hand grenades at the dog and everything. And so they end up shooting the guy who's attacking the dog, not knowing that the dog is actually this thing from another planet that these Swedish guys, the Swedish team, has dug up. So I don't want to get into all the details because if you haven't seen this, it's a total classic. It's, of course, based on the original The Thing from Another World, which I believe was directed by Howard Hawks, and that came out in the 50s, I think. If you haven't seen that one, definitely give that a try. It has some great special effects for the time when that came out as well. John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It's the one that got me into horror movies. The practical effects are, bar none, some of the creepiest, most gruesome, most amazing creature effects you'll ever see in any movie. Again, the setting, the characters, the dialogue, the writing, the whole script, the way it's set up is so much fun. This is a classic for me.
Yeah, I think I love the practical effects, and like the one part out of the whole movie that just sticks out to me, and it's like one of my favorite practical effects of the whole movie is the petri dish scene where they're trying to figure.
No spoilers.
But like if you haven't seen it, the petri dish scene is just like.
When the heavier guy goes into cardiac arrest, and the doctors using defibrillators on him on the table scene in the kitchen or wherever they are.
Yeah.
Well, just the effects itself. I know Jordan spoke about it, but I remember when I watched this movie, it was creepy because it wasn't like the thing wasn't just the same creature every time. So there's so many aspects to the thing itself. It's like it models itself off of living organisms, and like so it was the dog, and then it, that scene with the dog in the like very beginning, not very beginning, but like towards the beginning, and then it's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? And then what's cool about it is it's not like other movies where like people are acting strange or like, oh, he's acting off. It's like people are just acting normal. There's nothing completely different about them, which makes it even creepier because you don't know who it is. You know how like all these like, oh, who done it or who's the killer? You always get the idea like someone's acting just a bit off or someone's acting just a bit strange, but not in the thing. Everyone's just acting completely normal, just how they usually, personality and everything's the same, but there's just something wrong with them. There's something off. And then when like the creature comes out, I love that every time it comes out, it's a different creature.
It's a different form.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's not like, like say it was like a cockroach or something, but it's like it's a different creature.
Like a cockroach.
Yeah. So and one of the best scenes is the spider scene, just for
Yeah.
What he said. What I love about this movie is like it's a little more. There's a lot of swearing in it, but it's so appropriately placed that it's just like. Of course, they had to swear at that part because it just makes the movie so much better. Yeah, exactly. Or Kurt Russell, dude. Talk about Kurt Russell.
He owns the movie. Yeah, he is. Every time he's in a scene, he is the funniest because he's a total drunk the whole time. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really like the rest of the people there that much. Like not that he doesn't like them, but he's just a grizzled, kind of jaded.
Well, you can tell he's like over it. He wants to go home. I don't know how long they've actually been there, but you can tell he's just checked out.
It's been months at least.
Yeah. Isn't he like? I think one of the funniest scenes is when he's playing chess and he just pours the whiskey down. Like when the game beats him, he just pours it on the keyboard.
That's his introduction. He's playing chess on the computer against the computer.
Whatever.
Yeah. It's what I love about the movie is the movie kind of starts off with a bang because it starts off with the helicopter and then like the black credits and everything. And so you kind of see like it just gets to it like something's going on and you don't know what's going on, but it's going on.
And it's got that classic John Carpenter soundtrack, that boom boom, where it's very subtle.
And so what I love is that the beginning is just right in your face. Let's get to it, and then the end is the same like. Dun dun, like just the soundtrack, but it's way more mellow. Like it's
right.
And so I'm not gonna give anything away, but it's just very like you'll see the contrast of the beginning and the end. But it's such an amazing movie. Like
and to me it has the same feel of, and I've told you guys know this, but John Carpenter is one of my favorite directors of all time for horror movies for sure. Everything from The Fog to even Assault on Precinct 13, which is not technically a horror movie, but I mean Christine. You think about all of his classics. These have Halloween, obviously. But he's the master of setting up these eerie, isolated settings, and this is the ultimate paranoia movie, is what I would call it, because nobody knows who's who. nobody knows who's actually might be the thing because they look normal, like you said, they act normal, and you don't know who's the creature. And so they all stop trusting each other, and they all start turning on each other, saying, "Hey, I saw so and so out by the helicopter messing with it." And so it's the ultimate isolation because none of them can get out of there. They're in the middle of absolutely, hundreds of miles from anywhere.
It's not like you could just run away and
they have one helicopter to get out, and something happens to that. It's one of those things where, and the creature ultimately is trying to get back to wherever it's come from. So it's, again, not to give away too much, but it's trying to assemble some sort of spacecraft to get home to its planet.
Yeah.
But it's having problems because they keep trying to figure out who it is, and people die in really gruesome ways, and it's just it's such a well done movie. But it's really interesting though, Chris, because you just looked it up on your phone. We were talking about how it's technically, they said it's the first, or John Carpenter considers it his first in his apocalyptic series, basically, or his trilogy or something.
Yeah, it's followed by what was it, Prince of Darkness?
Yeah. No, they're great, John Carpenter.
Oh, that one, crazy. And then In the Mouth of Madness, which
Sam Neill,
right? Yeah.
Which
and
that's it's
about
just,
the writer, the author.
It's just crazy, but I mean, it's
that we'll get to those ones later. But The Thing is definitely, if you have not seen The Thing for Halloween or for any time, and not just Halloween, but a staple. But for right now, I mean, it's October 5th, so I mean, you got plenty of time to go check it out. And if there's one movie that we would recommend, I mean, it would be Halloween and The Thing. So it'd be like 1 and 1A. Like, you got to check it out. So this Halloween, definitely check out The Thing. It'll be worth your time. It's not too scary. It's not too. I wouldn't say it's not too gory. There's definitely some gore.
Oh yeah.
But but it's not like over the top. It's just appropriate for the setting and how it's used.
Right.
So this Halloween, definitely check out The Thing. It's a good date movie, fun, and really great for Halloween. The next movie on our list is a movie called Pet Sematary. It is a book by Stephen King, but it was made into a movie in 1989. It had a budget of $11 million, and it was directed by Mary Lambert. Pet Sematary is a movie that revolves around a family that loses an animal, a cat, and so they're advised by a neighbor to go bury it in a pet cemetery, which I think you figure out in the movie that's Indian burial ground or something like that, which has these powers to bring the dead back to life. And so that's pretty much the basis of the movie. I guess some of the things we're going to talk about will have spoilers because we can't really talk about the movie without giving away some spoilers. So
the biggest spoiler being that when someone or something is buried there, it doesn't come back quite right.
Yeah, and so
it's kind of circuit is short fused a little bit. It's like.
So one of the guys in the movie, he's like the next door neighbor. What was his? Do you remember his name?
Jed or something. Judd. I think.
Yeah, he's like this like total like farmer guy. He wears like overalls and everything. And isn't he the
Judd Crandall? Yeah.
But isn't he like the guy from the Munsters?
Yeah. He's the guy, the actor's name is Fred Gwynn.
Yeah. And so he was like the dad or the Frankenstein, whatever.
He's the Frankenstein guy. Yeah.
And so anyway, so he's in the movie. And so we all love the movie because we love his voice.
He's got a very particular voice.
Yeah, it's
gonna bury him in the pet cemetery.
And so sometimes the voice when I do it always gets into Jimmy Stewart or the pet cemetery.
I don't have your money.
I don't have your cat. I buried it in the pet cemetery. It's all. Don't blame me. And so, anyways, that's our Jimmy Stewart Pet Cemetery. But anyways, so
Judd.
The family has a cat, and so the cat dies, and the kids are devastated.
By the way, to mention, they just moved to this new town that's in Maine somewhere. It's a small town.
Yeah, so they don't know any of the history or anything.
So they had just met this neighbor who's this old guy from the Munsters.
Yeah. He's like, I used to be in this TV show.
So come on and drink a beer with me.
I got Munsters money.
So anyways, he advises the new neighbor, hey, go bury the cat in this, pet cemetery. It has some, like, special powers kind of thing. And then the neighbor, you probably think, like, oh, he's crazy or whatever. But he goes and does it. And then the cat comes back to life. But then, like, the cat comes back more aggressive and demonic and dead or who knows what.
He seems a little different.
Yeah.
He's a little off.
You know what? Which made me really wonder, like, how much different is it from a regular cat?
Yeah,
that's
cats
like,
are pretty messed up anyways.
It's not like cats are like that loving, like unless you give them food or whatever they want. If they're they're cats.
Well, at the very least, they don't give a crap.
Yeah.
But when they're buried in the pet cemetery, they do start to give a crap.
Yeah.
But in a horrible way. They're pretty nasty.
So, anyways, the movie goes along and everything's kind of like not normal, but you kind of hear more of the history of the pet cemetery and everything. So, anyways, I'm not gonna say what happens, but tragedy strikes in the family.
Oh, just say, dude. It's a spoiler. Spoiler.
Okay,
Yeah,
spoiler. Here's a
whatever.
spoiler. So there's a family picnic, and it's kind of weird, like seeing this scene. Like as a kid, I was like, oh, whatever, that sucks. But like,
Oh, whatever. That
yeah,
sucks.
you know,
as a kid, you don't really
kid hit
care.
by a semi.
But like as like a father, I'm like, oh, that's terrible. That's devastating. So what happens is the son, who's like probably 2 or 3, he's probably like 2.
He's like 3 or 4 or something like that.
the actor was probably 5, but
Yeah. Well, anyways, he runs into the street.
He's chasing a ball
He's
or a toy
chasing
he
a ball
wants,
or
yeah.
something, and so then
wasn't it a balloon
the-
or something?
No, that's
something.
it.
And so the semi comes, and I guess the semi just doesn't have enough time to see him and just like waste him. And so
Or he hits the gas.
yeah. And so then
Like, oh, ball!
the kid is like, I don't even know what happened because the kid gets.
It's that classic pan to his face, like, oh, even though he has
Well, it's in
like
slow
a good
motion.
5
It's in
seconds.
slow motion, and then it
he
does
has a
that-
good 5 seconds to jump out of the way.
It does the whole like shoe getting knocked off, and it just shows his shoe.
Dude, it's brutal.
It's brutal. Like I said, now looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But as a kid, I'm like, oh, well. Anyways, and so
Bummer, dude.
bummer.
Just take him to the pet cemetery.
So, anyways, so that's what they do. The father is so devastated.
The father's like, you got a kid cemetery around here?
He's like, oh, we just got a pet cemetery. I try that one. And so,
No, but here's the funny part, though. Sorry to interrupt, but here's the funny part. This is where the dad decides to take his son to the pet cemetery, even though the cat has already come back and is like a demon.
Mm-hmm.
And even though Judd, his neighbor, Mr. Monster, advises him to go bury the cat in the pet cemetery, he tells Judd, like, I'm going to take my kid over there. I'm going to bring my kid back.
Yeah.
And Judd's like, oh, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden now he's against the pet cemetery.
he's like, that's not a good idea. That's only for cats, you know. So the cats are the ones that
Well, it's
only
a
come back
pet
normal.
cemetery, not a kid's cemetery.
So,
What
anyway,
are you, crazy?
Yeah. He takes the cat. He takes his son to the pet cemetery, buries him, and then the son comes back to life. And it's kind of like this movie came out right before I think Child's Play, and so it's kind of like that idea, like it's just like this little kid that goes around and he's killing people. So spoiler,
Scalpel.
he has a scalpel and he ends up killing Chud.
Yeah, he gets Judd, yeah.
Oh, Judd. He kills him, and then he goes over next door, and then the dad's like there, and he's like stabbing the son. Or no.
Wait, didn't he go over to the house and like the kid was under the bed or something?
That was what Judd. So what I forgot was the wife, who was out of town, comes home, doesn't know about the whole pet cemetery burying, and so the son's there, and then it's not.
He attacks the mom.
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't show it him doing it, but when the husband gets there, he finds the wife murdered by the
that's
son.
right. Yeah,
and so then now he has to take out the son who's possessed or undead or whatever. And so then
that's when he kills him and reburies him in
Yeah.
the pet cemetery.
we gotta do this about 2 or 3 more times.
All right, 3 times the charm.
Just so you know, no spoilers in this.
Yeah. We should just call this Spoiler Cemetery, because this is...
Spoiler Cemetery.
You know what? You don't even have to check this one out for Halloween. I think we got you.
Yeah.
And so anyways, he ends
that
up...
monster money?
Yeah. He ends up killing the son again with, like, needles or I don't know what, like...
Oh, he
Yeah,
injects
because
him with something, right?
he's a doctor.
Oh, that's
so
right.
He has,
He's and so, no, he's a veterinarian. Whatever, he's something.
Yeah, he is
And-
a veterinarian,
yeah.
but yeah.
And so then...
Whatever he is, he should know better
yeah.
than bury things in a pet
Pet
cemetery.
So then, here's the thing. Not once, not twice, but thrice here, he's like, you know what? Not the cat, not my son.
Oh,
Let
the
me
wife.
bury my wife.
Yep.
She's an
Oh,
adult.
yeah.
She knows better.
I forgot about that.
And so he takes...
She knows
Yeah.
better.
He takes her to the
She
pet
can do this?
cemetery and buries her. And the most disgusting scene, she comes back. She's got like half her face missing, and he starts making out with her. And it's like gross first because she's like dead, and then like you see her and she like, I don't know if it shows her killing them, but you just kind of hear it as like the camera pans out or something. And so, anyways,
That dude is dumb.
yeah. So I mean, he learned his. And so you know what's gonna happen? His
No,
wife-
he didn't learn his lesson.
Well,
that's the
yeah,
point.
that's true. His wife's probably gonna take him to Pet Cemetery, and
And there'll be a pet cemetery too.
yeah. Well, there is a Pet Cemetery too.
Oh, crap.
Anyways, so this is Pet Cemetery. This episode's just got off the wire here. But I do have to say about this movie, one of the freakiest scenes I've ever seen in this movie was when the mom is having a flashback to her aunt or grandma or something.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
it is so gross because the lady looks so like death and bony and like.
She reminds me of like the mom from Dead Alive.
Oh gosh. Jeez Louise, that's probably the grossest scene in horror cinema.
Another one for later.
So, but anyways, Pet Sematary, definitely a movie to check out. It's really good. We had a lot of fun reviewing this because it's a fun movie. It's not really campy though.
It's not really good. I would rephrase that. It's good. It's fun, but it's kind of cheesy too.
You gotta watch it though.
Well, I would say it's really good in the sense of like it's good because it's fun. Well, like I said, it's not campy, but it's fun because of maybe the comedic value that we throw into it because it's like this guy's not thinking about the consequences. It's like anyone would be like, no, don't do that. Don't you know? But yeah, I don't know. If I guess maybe if like your son died, you'd probably like want him to come back and be. But yeah. Long story short, check out Pet Sematary this Halloween.
By the way, they spell cemetery wrong.
Did it?
No, the movie it's spelled wrong.
The next movie on our list is The Shining. It is directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it is a novel by Stephen King. It came out in 1980, and it had a budget of $19 million. The Shining is one of those movies that is very well known. Everyone knows a lot of it. Everyone knows the tagline, especially for Halloween. Not even for Halloween. It's one of the most quoted taglines that here's Johnny. And so it's a great movie. And I know for Chris, it's one of his favorite movies. I think it's one of the movies that kind of got him into horror. I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah. Shining's one of those movies. It's just everything that really got me into horror. Just the sense of seclusion. I mean, it reminds me in so many ways of The Thing that we talked earlier, where it's just the sense of this family. They go to take care of this hotel where where it's a huge hotel. It's totally secluded. Nobody's there.
It's like off season, right?
Yeah, it's off season.
It's like a ski resort up in in Colorado somewhere, right? Way up in the mountains in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and they have no visitors. I mean, there's no access to this hotel during the time. And this one father decides to take his family up there, and the issue they have is his father is an alcoholic. He's a teacher that has been fired from his job. He's trying to take care of his family, and he takes care of them the best way he knows how to. He finds this job up in this hotel, and he's going to be the caretaker. No matter what, he's going to take care of this place.
Is he a writer? I can't remember. Is he a writer in the movie, or is he a professor?
Yeah, he is, because remember the scene where he's writing all work and no play make Jack a dull boy.
Yeah, he was always writing that big empty room on the typewriter.
He goes up there, and his goal up there is to basically take care of his family and to write his novel.
Okay.
And when he gets up there, it's so hard. This is one of those movies that goes from the horror movie to the psychological to like the emotional, and it goes so deep, which is cool because this movie is so accessible on so many levels. I mean, you can look at it as this is a holy crap, this is a scary horror movie, to like the deepness of like what he's going through the alcoholism, through just his struggles as a dad. I mean, it's just,
and then on top of that, of course, you have his son Danny, who has these supernatural powers. Yeah.
Red Rob.
Well, he can read minds, or what is it? Or
he can communicate through his mind, which is what his Scatman Carruthers.
He has the shinning.
Yeah.
The shinning. What's that?
Yeah.
That guy.
You like ice cream, Doc? Yeah. Which also, by the way, did the voice for Transformer. I think he did. Which Transformer did he do?
Not Decepticon.
He was an Autobot. Anyway, Scatman Carruthers was. But yeah, so it's interesting because I like the fact that you have the story of the mom who is the wife, Shelley Duvall, who's been kind of abused by Jack Nicholson's olive oil. who's been abused by Jack Nicholson, being a drunk and abusive and all this stuff. So she's trying to protect her son, who neither of them really realize that he's got this special power where he can communicate with people through his mind, only with other people who have the shining, which is the same ability, basically. And Scatman Carruthers' character, the chef at this hotel, he's one of the people that does have the same ability. All around, I agree with what you said, Chris, as far as, like, to me, it's the seclusion, the paranoia, and I always tell people, some people will say, well, I haven't seen it yet. It seems kind of long. It's like 2.5 hours.
It's a very long movie.
But I tell people, I say, okay, How could you not love seeing Jack Nicholson, one of my favorite actors, go insane slowly for 2.5 hours in a movie? Because he's slowly getting possessed by the house, and he has some history or connection to it that's never made totally clear. It's left in the dark as far as what his connection is to it. But the dialogue, the setting, the directing of Stanley Kubrick, the cinematography, the score, everything leads up to this beautiful movie. The setting
is amazing on that.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Yeah, I mean the hotel, like they've had documentaries on this hotel. I mean it's beautiful.
The Overlook.
The Overlook, yeah. I mean it's just crazy. Like this place is like, just because of this movie, has gained like all sorts of tourists that just want to go there just because of how beautiful and how just how awesome and
how famous how iconic it is.
Yeah. So I know Jordan said that Jack Nicholson's character is kind of slowly going crazy, and he's kind of like, he has a connection to the hotel, but that we don't know. And I wanted to ask you, Chris, because you're really familiar with the book. And there's a lot of things in the movie that don't really add up, because it's little just pieces of the book that they're throwing in there. And I know when I watched it, or I think when we all watched it, I was a little lost, because I'm like, what the heck is that? Like there was like a furry or a mascot or something, and then there was like there's just so much stuff. I'm like, I don't get what's really going on. And I know you read the book and you're really familiar with the book. Like, does the book tie it in a lot more, or?
The book does, and I think the hard thing, and I think this is why a lot of the critics have had issues with The Shining, is Stanley Kubrick, while the movie The Shining is incredible, I love it, it's a classic.
I've read the book too. It differs a lot from the book.
Yeah, the movie totally took liberties with what happened in the book, and I mean, there's so many things that have happened in the book. I mean, even to the concluding scene, which I don't want to ruin, because if you haven't read the book, you need to. It's one of the only books I've ever read, and I've read a lot of stuff that kept me awake at night. I mean, I read it and I'm like, did somebody just open that door over there? You know, I mean, it's...
Here's Johnny!
I'm like, Jack Russell, what are you doing in my bathroom?
Well, and I think, too, if you remember, there's some scenes in the book. I read it I think I read it for the second time, like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and there's scenes in the book they just didn't have the budget for and the technology for the CGI or whatever for the movie at the time, because there's scenes where they do way more in the book with the hedge animals. The hedge animals were so creepy. I still remember to this day.
Did they do the hedge animals in the Stanley Kubrick? I don't think they did, because it was the hedge maze.
No. They only did the hedge maze in the same movie.
Because I haven't read the book. I just seen the movie. I don't remember any, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
There are creepy scenes where Danny's playing outside earlier on in the book, maybe almost halfway through, where he's playing outside, and all of a sudden he looks at like this hedge, like lion, or there's like a bird one or whatever, and then he's playing like on a swing set or whatever, and he looks back, and it's gotten closer.
Yeah.
Oh,
like creepy. It's super creepy. And then there's this one scene too. I'll hurry up here, but there's one scene too in the book, not in the movie, where he goes down this like pipe that's in the playground. Do you remember where it's like this cylindrical thing? There's this pipe he crawls down, and all of a sudden he's in there, and it's dark, even though it's daytime outside. And all of a sudden he gets this, he says, you know, the book says like the hair on the back of his neck went up, whatever. Yeah. And he realizes there's something in there with him.
Oh, gosh.
And he doesn't see it. He can't feel it. He sees the light on both sides of this, you know, tunnel or whatever, this little like playground thing. But all of a sudden it's deep enough to where he feels like there's something else in there. So he races out, goes back inside. His parents are like, oh, it's fine. We don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, so there are tons of scenes like that in the book. They didn't do in the movie, but...
The one in the book that they didn't do in the movie that just was awesome was, there's a scene in the book where Jack Torrance, or Jack... Jack. goes and he finds like some hornet's nest, and he decides to like kill all the hornets. He sprays it, does whatever, and then just for fun he gives his son the hornet's nest with all the dead hornets, and while it's in his son's room, the hornets like come back to life and they start attacking.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And it's like there's so many things, and not to like go too much into it, but if you ever want to, there is a remake. They did a made for TV version of The Shining, which is really close to the book, which is
a lot
fun.
closer to the book.
Which if you don't like reading, it's definitely worth checking out if you enjoy the movie.
Yeah, so I mean, to get back to the movie itself, though, the film, I think again, the directing, the cinematography, the way they write it, it is totally different than the novel. I agree with you. They changed the ending. They changed a lot of the big scenes in it. But for the movie itself, though, my favorite scenes, I'll just rattle off really quickly here. The scene of Jack at the bar with the bartender is two of my favorite, because he goes there twice. Two of the best scenes, I think, in cinema, period.
Yep.
One of my favorite scenes of dialogue of all time, by far, is the one where the butler, he's at the soiree, and the butler spills something on him, and again, none of these people are really there. It's spirits in the hotel, whatever. Again, not to give away too much, but the scene where the butler takes him into the bathroom to clean off his shirt because he spills some of his own drink on him, and he's talking to him about, you've always been the caretaker here, and Jack realizes who he is, Delbert Grady, and so anyway, not to give away too much, but if you guys haven't seen this, please get over the fact that it's long. Please get over the fact that it's slow. It's a Stanley Kubrick movie. He's one of my favorite directors. It's beautifully shot, beautifully written. The acting, the characters, everything is top notch to me. And there are scenes in it that are okay. There are scenes that are like, okay, it's a little slow, whatever. But the payoff for each scene where it gets creepier and creepier is just amazing. This is one, literally, I watch every October. Every Halloween season, I have to watch this.
Yeah. So there you go. I shouldn't even say much more because these guys nailed it. So The Shining, definitely check it out for Halloween this month. The next movie on our list is one of my personal favorites. It is Halloween 2. It came out in 1981. It was directed by Rick Rosenthal, and it had a budget of $2.5 million, which is why I love these Halloween movies. They have such small budgets, but they work wonders. Halloween 2 takes place, right where Halloween 1 left off. It even has like a not a cutscene, but a kind of just it
recaps the
end of the first movie, and so and then from there it just takes off into what's going on afterwards. And so in Halloween 2, what happens is they take Laurie Strode to the hospital, and Donald Pleasance and the sheriff are looking for Michael Myers in the in the town, and then Michael Myers he eventually makes his way to the hospital, and so the whole to finish the job, and so the whole setting is taking place at a hospital, and so that's pretty much the idea. Is Laurie Strode wakes up in the hospital, she realizes Michael Myers is chasing her, and she's trying to escape from him. Donald Pleasance and the sheriff eventually get there, and that's pretty much the basis of the movie. There's so many little things that happen in this movie that crack us up and like creep us out at the same time. And we can't move on without just saying such a random part of the movie. It's just like, it's like partially in the beginning is like this guy
who works at the hospital.
He's the doctor or an EMT.
No, he's not a doctor. He's like an orderly.
Yeah. And so he's like watching this like exercise video, and it's like he's in like the dark, and the lights are all off, and
he's clearly on break because he's like eating dinner or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not like a exercise video where the ladies are even talking like, all right, let's do another set. They're just doing the most awkward, provocative, like inappropriate exercises. And it's just, he's like, oh yeah. He's like, oh yeah. It's just like, okay, we get the idea of maybe what he was trying to watch, but
oh, dude, it's so funny though.
It's pretty hilarious. So, anyways, the cast of characters. Laurie Strode's main character, Don Pleasance, is the co-star again. Michael Myers is the lead, but the other characters are kind of disposable. There's like nurses, orderlies, other police stations, security guards, and they all kind of get taken out one by one by Michael Myers. What I love about this movie is that it's the aspect of still being chased by the object of Michael Myers. He's going after
pure evil.
You still, it's the sequel, and you still have not figured out why. You have not figured out why.
Right.
But I think in this one, you do figure out that Laurie Strode is his sister. I'm not 100% sure if that was because I can't
remember that too. It's been a while since
because I can't remember that. I don't think in part 1 they ever said that it was his sister. I think in part 2 you figure out that Laurie Strode is his sister. But anyway, so Laurie Strode is what makes this one even creepier. What I remember is that Laurie Strode is kind of drugged up, and so she's kind of like out of it and dazed, and she's kind of which makes it even harder escaping from a serial killer who's just an unstoppable force that's just trying to kill you and you don't know why, and now you're drugged up, you're weakened in the legs, your arms and everything's jello and dopey. It just makes it that much harder, which I thought was an amazing idea to kind of throw in there. This actually has one of my favorite horror movie scenes, and it's such a simplistic scene, but I love it. It's Laurie Strode goes into a car and she tries to leave the hospital, and so she couldn't find a key, she couldn't hotwire the car, so she ends up walking back to the hospital. And so while she's walking back, it's almost like the same play from the first one when she's like trying to get into the house, but she's like the door is locked to the hospital, and then Michael Myers is behind her, and it's just like she's trying to get in, but she couldn't, and she's even walking even slower because she's all doped up and everything. And I remember she finally makes it into the hospital doors. They close the doors, and I'm like, sweet. And then Michael Myers just walks straight through the glass door, and I'm like, oh my gosh! So like the door couldn't even hold him back.
Stop him.
Yeah, and so it's such a like simple scene, but I'll always remember that scene because it was just kind of like, oh my gosh, he's unstoppable. He can't stop.
Well, yeah, and one of the things that I love about this movie too is that, which to mention, this was written by John Carpenter and Deborah Hill, his writing partner.
Yes.
From the original and everything. So they wrote it. They didn't direct it this time. But one thing I love about this again though is just like the first Halloween, where there's tons of kids in the beginning of the movie. They're at high school. There's younger kids out trick or treating, everything. As soon as the evil comes in, which is Michael Myers, it's nighttime. All of a sudden, all the doors are locked. The lights are off in the houses. Everyone's gone basically. So again, it has, going back to The Thing and some of those other movies and The Shining, it has that isolation feel to it. With this one, it's funny because you're in a hospital. Normally, we've all been to hospitals before. It's bustling with people and nurses and doctors and people who work there, patients, family members, whatever. This is really interesting because even though it's nighttime at the hospital, which makes it creepier, there's like no one there all of a sudden. So when Jamie Lee Curtis is running for help and stuff, it's like all the rooms are empty, and it's really interesting because obviously it's a hospital in a smaller town where maybe it's not as busy for some reason that night. You don't know, but it's crazy though because they still have that same feeling of isolation, and which it makes it even creepier to me.
I know in the earlier episode I said that my mom was a nurse, and I remember when my dad would pick her up at night, like it would be like 1, 2 in the morning, and sometimes he'd have to take us because he couldn't leave us home alone.
Right.
And so I do remember that the hospital.
Yeah, because that's how you saw Pet Sematary.
Yeah, exactly. So because I'd already be awake. But anyways, I do remember that when we go to the hospital, it did look exactly like Halloween 2. Like it was very like dark and eerie, and it was like it almost seemed like it was shut down. And I remember I'll never forget like walking through the thing, and I could hear my footsteps, and it's just like I'm like, where is everybody? Like and then you start getting the idea that someone's gonna get you. And I'll never forget, like, I heard, I mean, it's sad thinking about it now, but as a kid, it creeped me out. Like, I just remember someone going like, ah, ah, and I'm like, oh crap, and I just busted, running. Looking back now,
it's a ghost.
Yeah, it's a ghost. But looking back now as an adult,
it's like some poor person in pain.
Yeah, some poor person in pain. But it's just like that isolation. I think that was real, like in the setting and it's a smaller town too, so it was probably a hospital because they kind of keep it quiet for the patients. Like a lot of hospitals do that at night. I mean, if it's the ER or if it's whatever, it's kind of loud and hustling and bustling. But usually hospitals where they have patients there, it's kind of quiet and eerie, and like you either hear like a TV or something. But it's yeah. And so I think that's maybe because I associate it more, and like my mom was a nurse, and I'd be at hospitals sometimes at night. I think maybe this movie really like connects to me because it's like I've been in that atmosphere, so it's like, oh yeah, this could totally happen. And especially like when you're like 10 or 11, you're just like, this is super creepy.
Well, and to not to cut you off, but I don't know how much we said it in the last episode with our review of the first Halloween movie, but Donald Pleasance is the man. What a great actor playing Dr. Loomis. He's definitely missed.
Yes.
Unfortunately, he passed away, but he did such a good job in these movies of trying to chase down the evil. He's the modern day Van Helsing in the Dracula series. He's the modern day Van Helsing. He's the one chasing the evil actively, while everyone else is running away and scattering or just getting murdered. Like just mercilessly. He's the one actively going after Michael and trying to stop this killing spree. And he does such a good job in all these movies.
I have such more respect for Donald Pleasance's character, Dr. Loomis, because being a therapist, it's really cool looking at it from that aspect of being like, dude, he worked with Michael Myers as a kid and tried to kind of like, not fix. Well, yeah, kind of fix them. And
for years. Right?
Yeah, and I know like with some of my clients, it's kind of like how can I help this person? And sometimes I've come to like the realization that there's some clients I can't fix, and like that's scary to think that be like I'm trying, and as much as I try, this client is not gonna get fixed, and I try, but it's up to the client, and that's a normal, and they could do whatever they want, but like just that idea of work. If I had a child who was like 6 or 7 and he did something horrific, and then kind of growing up and just being like, "What? This kid's trouble. Like you got to watch out for him."
Yeah,
it's just like I can see that now, and just like he felt like it was his responsibility to stop him because he knows how he is. No matter what the county says or what the lawyers say or what the state says, he's a human. Like I think that's really cool because he's kind of like
he's got a connection to Michael. Yeah.
He's got a connection to Michael that it's like you guys don't
that
get
nobody
it.
else has.
I've spent time with him and you're not there, and so for me, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like as a therapist, like, oh, sweet, And so like, go get him, Loomis. And he's one of my favorite like cinema characters, not just horror movie characters, but cinema characters. But yeah, so Halloween 2, definitely a recommendation. I know I'm going to check it out this Halloween. It's a movie I watch every single Halloween. It's awesome if you check out Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 in order. You don't have to, but, I'd recommend it. So anyways, Halloween 2, check it out this Halloween. The next movie on our list is a cult classic. Actually, it's not even a cult classic. It's just a classic. It is Sam Raimi's Evil Dead. And we're going to be reviewing Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. Both directed by Sam Raimi. Evil Dead 1 came out in 1981 with a budget of about $300,000 to $400,000, and Evil Dead 2 came out in 1987 with a budget of $3 million. And these two movies are amazing because A, they're an amazing movie, but more importantly, B, because it has one of the best characters or actors that we all love, Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, so these movies are some of my favorites to where anyone who wants to get into these slapstick, over-the-top, comedic horror movies, these are the bread and butter. To give you a hint of how powerful the first movie was, is I read this a while ago, so I don't remember if it was for the first movie or the second one. But do you guys know who who Sam Raimi's apprentices were on set?
No, I don't know. For Evil Dead?
Yeah, for Evil Dead. It was either the first one or the second one. It was a pair of brothers named Joel and Ethan Coen.
Oh, really?
They followed Sam Raimi's direction. They saw how he did special effects, practical effects, direction, cinematography, all that stuff. So they were young at the time when he directed these classics, and they looked up to him. And you see where those directors are, the Coen brothers are today. Yeah. So that should teach you something. The Evil Dead, when I first saw The Evil Dead, I think technically I started with The Evil Dead 2, which is one of my first introductions to horror. I was in high school, I saw it with a friend, and I was laughing. I was, kind of scared, but I loved how it was done because you could tell that Bruce Campbell was way over the top. Super fun performance. He was a funny actor, slapstick comedic actor from early 30s, 20s silent movies. That kind of stuff, almost like a Three Stooges type of stuff, which Sam Raimi's heavily influenced by. But these movies are total classics because the practical effects, the story is very simplistic. Basically strangers go, or not strangers, but this group of people go into visit a cabin in the woods, in the backwoods of Tennessee or wherever they are, and they find out that one of the girls, fathers or whoever has read some pages from the Necronomicon, this book of the dead, which they've accidentally released some spirits from the dead with through these incantations of this book. And Bruce Campbell in the first one is actually more of a wimpy kind of scaredy cat. He's not really the protagonist.
Yeah, it's kind of more serious in the it has a more serious tone in the first one. Like I feel like the second one got way more campier and like slapstick, and even like Bruce Campbell's facial expressions, which he's super known for, especially with the Evil Dead series and Army of Darkness. But I think in Evil Dead 1, it was more serious, and Ash wasn't really like that kind of, how we all know Ash today. Like this. Yeah,
he's not like a badass like superhero like protagonist. He's more of a he's more scared. He doesn't know what's going on. So in the first one, you're right. I agree. He takes everything's more serious. Everything's supposed to be more scary. And there's some really disturbing scenes in the first one where people get possessed. There's a tree scene with a female character. It's it's bothersome to say the least.
Yes, absolutely. It's definitely a scene that's way more disturbing, and it in Halloween horror movie cinema. So definitely just be prepared for that if you're gonna watch the movie. This movie is definitely a staple that you should watch, but just be aware that there is a very disturbing scene. Even if you'd like to fast forward it, and you'll see it coming. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah. So basically in the first movie, like I said, Bruce Campbell's character is not really the main protagonist. He's more scared and worried about everything. But I don't want to give away too much because it's a classic. Possessions take place. Spirits rise from this book where they call the spirits up, and the practical effects are great. But when you get to Evil Dead 2, which is the second one that came out in 1987, right? So they're 6 years apart from both of them. They basically remade the first one, but with a higher budget, a bigger budget. They had more, cutting-edge practical effects, and I think, again, it was Evil Dead 2 where the Coen brothers started watching how Sam Raimi made these movies.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great behind-the-scenes making of documentaries online where you can watch how Sam Raimi basically loved beating the crap out of Bruce Campbell. Like the first scene where the evil comes and possesses Bruce Campbell and he's flying through the trees, and they basically have him on this big 2x4 kind of cross thing, and he's rotating him, and he's supposed to be flying through the trees, so they eliminate the wood that he's attached to, kind of almost splayed out almost like a crucifix. And Sam Raimi has himself and other people beating Bruce Campbell with branches and everything else in the face, literally, like as he's going through all the trees, like in the background, which is a digital effect. But in live action, they're just whomping on him with tree branches and everything. To where, basically he said that Bruce Campbell, or that Sam Raimi, the director, kept saying, "I don't think we got it that time, Bruce. Let's do it again." And Bruce knew that he's like, "You got it. You got it. What are you talking about?" So anyway, they grew up, doing movies together and stuff like that. So it's a great collage of friends who have been friends for a long time, doing movies together, now as they're older, and they actually have a real budget for it. And, so again, I don't want to talk too long about it, but if you've never seen Evil Dead 1, watch it. If you've never seen Evil Dead 2, you can actually skip the first one if you want and watch the second one.
Yeah.
And you'll be ready to watch Army of Darkness, which is the third entry into the series. But Evil Dead 2 still stands the test of time to me as one of my favorite all-time horror, comedy, whatever you want to call it, movies of all time, because it has everything from stop motion special effects to practical effects to some digital effects, a couple here and there, but it's one of the funniest, most outlandish, ridiculous horror movies of all time, and it makes me laugh every time I watch it. Anytime you watch it with a group of friends who haven't seen it, they will laugh at it, they will have fun. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a great time.
Yeah, so this Halloween, check out Evil Dead 1, or Evil Dead 2 in no particular order, because they don't really it's not like Evil Dead 2 picks up for where Evil Dead 1 left off. They're kind of like more, it's kind of like a remake, but it's not. It's really hard to explain. You just have to check out both movies, but you could even check out in any order you want. So definitely check it out this Halloween, Evil Dead 1 and or 2.